Hello everyone, my name is Exalence and welcome to my first official video on the United Mapping Empires channel. In today's video we will be taking a look at a scenario in which Brazil from Atlas Pro's WICSO comes to the real world. So as we know in WICSO, Brazil is a fascist nation, which means two things. It means they like imperialism and fascism, or expansionism, but it also means it's going to be very hard for them to find allies with countries across the world, because in the modern day there is no official fascist countries, however there is dictatorships. But as we did see in WICSO, flipping governments is possible, so we'll have to see if Brazil can change that. But speaking of expansion, Brazil is going to be invading a country. Can you guess who it is? If you guess Colombia, then you would be right. And to be completely honest, Colombia is completely destroyed here, and the part that remains is literally the Darien Gap, so it's not really too possible for them to invade this. But to make it easier for Brazil's expansion, and just to get this done with, they are a lot weaker, the Colombians are way weaker, so like there's just going to be small excursions into regions. And honestly, there's going to be a landing by here, and after that I think Colombia just surrenders, because like it's not really worth fighting, you know, they were already pretty much gone, but at this point they're just going to surrender to the Brazilians. And in a peace treaty we see that the remainder of Colombia is fully annexed into Brazil. To be honest, it doesn't really change much because they were not really there anyways. But as we do know, Brazil is a fascist country, and I wouldn't be surprised if they want to continue expanding and maybe form an empire. So they're going to look around at their borders. They have quite a few weak ones, but their next one is actually going to be Bolivia. Now Bolivia is not too strong of a country, so the Brazilians will have it will be quite easy for them. However, I might be wrong in saying this, but there could be the Amazon rainforest here. Okay, I just checked the map of Bolivia and there is the Amazon rainforest here, so there will be a bit of a pushback and an attempt to recapture this area, but it's not, it'll just be stalemated like that. Now Bolivia is a country that I don't know much about, so feel free to inform me in the comments if you know anything. I'd love to hear about Bolivia. But the Brazilians are going to move their focus over to this region, and they're going to start a new offensive here, taking over this area of land and moving into these areas, which could also very well be the Amazon rainforest, but let's just pretend it doesn't exist. This group is just going to go like aiming for major towns and areas, and it's going to split out and take a major city, while this part of the group is going to continue south and take this major city. We're then going to see this area go in for the capital, while this area also does, and we eventually see the capital of Peru fall. After this, Peru is just going to make the decision to surrender, because it's not worth fighting this war, and who knows, maybe if they surrender they'll get spared by the Brazilians. Since Bolivia did surrender, Brazil is actually going to be nice, and they're only going to take these lands. Now at this point Brazil is expanding very quickly into South America, and it is going to start drawing conflict by obviously the normal Brazil, Argentina, Chile, America, all these like powers in the region, and it is even going to cause some anger from Europe. These guys don't like it because this is obviously a fascist country and they are expanding a lot, and the world just does not like it. But to the Brazilians it seems like anger just inspires them to keep going, as they now go after Paraguay and they declare war on the country. Now before I even start this, I would genuinely like to apologise for the border goal that's about to be here. I have no idea why Brazil still owns this little piece of land, but it's gonna probably become an exclave, or it will, because I tell you now, this video isn't ending yet, is it? So I don't think Brazil is gonna lose to Paraguay. But the Paraguayans do actually have a bit of a good force. They are able to recapture this major city, But it does come with consequences, as the Brazilians moving south now capture this major city. The Brazilians are going to do the same thing they did with Bolivia and send a different, send a separate group of troops just to go and capture this major city and split off this northern area. That leads to a bigger force coming in and just taking the rest of this region, as the Paraguayan forces are all killed by the fascist Brazilians because they wouldn't want to keep them alive in this area. But eventually Brazilian troops march into Assunção and the president is assassinated. Firstly, I'm sorry if I pronounced that city wrong, and secondly, this is going to draw a lot of controversy from the greater world because they have just openly assassinated a world leader, and these countries are worried for what's going to come in the peace conference. But meanwhile, the Brazilians continue to just destroy whatever remaining groups remain of Paraguay, as they send smaller divisions just to capture these major areas and make sure the country's gone, tons of towns are captured. And just to show you, it will probably look something like that. I don't know what Paraguay's population is or their population density, but that's probably how it looks at this point. But eventually, after all of Paraguay's forces are destroyed and capitulated, the country will fall and Brazil will begin peace talks with themselves. So as we can see, this is the peace treaty, and surprisingly Paraguay is actually spared. Now, something I didn't tell you with Bolivia is actually the same thing that happened here, and these two countries have been converted to fascist governments. Essentially, these two countries are now aligned to Brazil, and just to make it official, Brazil is going to be creating an alliance with these two nations, and they could have really just annexed these lands into their empire, but instead they chose to just make them as alliance, basically puppet states, so that confuses a lot of people, but whatever. But coming back over to Brazil, they're going to be continuing their expansionist conquest, now going after a big one. We see the fascist Brazilians declaring war on Brazil. We have Brazil versus Brazil. And just to make this even more confusing, we see Brazil dragging their allies into the war. And the fighting in this war is actually going to begin up here in this region, as this region is disconnected and the Brazilians are just going to take control of that and occupy it. I fixed the colour. Now the Brazilians are not just going to take this, they're going to start an invasion into Paraguay because they know that they're fascists now. They've received the intel from America, they're prepared, and the Brazilians are going to fully occupy Paraguay. Now this is going straight to the plan of the fascist Brazilians, because now they start an invasion into Brazil and immediately take this major city, which I don't actually know what that is. It's Curitiba. But coming back to the Brazilians, they're going to continue their push now, heading towards their exclave, and they will actually reconnect with it, and from that point capture this major city away from the fascist Brazilians. Now, just to give you an idea, no, Brazil's not that strong. They've been weakened a lot, but they're receiving aid from countries like America, the UK, France, Germany, so that's why they're having a good advantage in this war. But advantages don't last forever, as the Brazilians basically ignore the invasion into their land, as they just continue down the coasts of normal Brazil, and they're gonna catch the second and last major city in their land, and they're gonna completely cut off their coast. But the Brazilians won't surrender, as they're technically occupying Paraguay, and they're just gonna continue heading this way. And they actually have quite a good strat, as they're just going for the major cities, similar to the fascist Brazilians, but they have something else planned. The Brazilians will continue, and they're now going to reach the border of Bolivia, where they're going to move in and capture these two major cities, which will then let them take control over this area. And you might be thinking that at this point the normal Brazilians are actually standing a chance to the Brazilians. But this is a video about the WICSO Brazilians, so if you thought they'd lose, you're wrong, as their troops just start mass pushing into this area, and eventually all of this territory will fall. The Brazilians will start to push back by here, taking back this major city and linking it with this exclave. They're then going to invade the exclave and continue pushing these forces. Bolivia is going to hold for its own and push back this area. Now at this point this area starts to get pushed back a lot, as eventually a lot of Brazilian troops just start heading towards this major city where they're going to camp out. Now with a normal country, I'm sure they would just wait this out for these guys to surrender or just keep pushing, but with the fascist Brazilians, they are obviously fascist, so they're just going to drop bombs and gas attacks on this area and all the troops will be wiped out. Now this is once again going to draw a lot of criticism from foreign countries, but they're not going to do anything about it. The Brazilians will now start a re-liberation campaign into Paraguay, I think. Can't remember, I think it's Paraguay. Yeah, it is. And they're just going to take back everything, and it's going to fall, and Brazil has officially been defeated by the fascist Brazilians. Now I'm doing the peace treaty, and I just wanted to show you an event. The Brazilians won't be annexing this province, and they are giving it over to their puppet state because they didn't really need it. This is the peace treaty, and at this point a lot of countries are starting to fear Brazil. The United States is one of them, and they are going to be taking the initiative and forming an alliance against Brazil. Some of the countries joining this alliance include Canada, Argentina, Peru, Chile, and the UK, as well as Costa Rica. And just like that, there is a ton of strong countries coming for Brazil. Now Brazil sees this, and they don't really mind, they only really wanted to go after Peru, maybe Costa Rica. They didn't really see any problems with Argentina, but they're going to go along with it, and they're going to keep expanding until something happens. So the next target on Brazil's hit list is none other than Uruguay. Now with this invasion, there's no real technique. There's a lot of major cities all over the place, so they just make their groups and spread out because it's easier than just fighting all of it. They did do this in all of them, I just didn't show it well, but here I'm going to because I feel like it fits. It's really just like a bunch of spider webs all over the place, and yeah, it's just gonna look like this until the capital's reached, and yeah, all these major cities will eventually be captured. It won't obviously be that quickly, but Uruguay will fall. And in the peace treaty we see full annexation. Brazil is gonna eye out their neighbours, and they're gonna find a few people who they want to target. This includes Panama, Jamaica, and Cuba. Now a lot of the countries are confused as to why they're doing this, but Brazil gives no reason, and they're going to start their invasion. Now as I said, this area is really hard to put troops in. It's the Darien Gap, so they're going to land by here. And they're just going to move their troops around until they reach populated areas, and they're basically just going to cut off all this northern area. There will be some movement up by here though around the coast, and they'll eventually meet up with this area, and now it's just like these areas of Panama left. Over here with Jamaica and Cuba, Jamaica is going to fall quite quickly. However, with Cuba it will take a bit longer, as they're just going to make a few landings all over the island, as well as their biggest success so far is going to be the capturing of this big island. But eventually coming back over to Panama, these troops are both going to link up, and eventually Panama City and the canal will fall, leading to just the complete capitulation of Panama to Brazil. Back over with Cuba, these two advancements link up and they capture these two major cities, leading to eventually this half of the island falling. And we see this advancement capturing this major city before linking up with the rest, and they just start destroying the rest of the island, and eventually they will start an invasion of the capital, which lasts for a few hours until it falls, and with that Cuba. So now let's take a look at this peace treaty. And this is the peace treaty we see for the annexation of Cuba, Jamaica and Panama. And now Brazil is going to say that if you want to go through the Panama Canal, you have to pay extreme taxes to Brazil, because we need the money, and if you want to use our canal, you have to pay us. And hearing this is going to make a little someone mad. Someone. And the Americans, their president, will be calling all the members of his alliance that he formed to Washington DC, and they're going to have an emergency meeting. This meeting will last 4 hours before America and their allies come out making a public statement announcing a declaration of war against Brazil and their puppet states. And just like that, Brazil and their allies are now at war. Brazil's leader makes a public statement and he announces this: Brazil has spent a long time industrializing and becoming a strong power in this world. We will not let the powers of the past, such as America and Britain, stop us from our imperialism because they disagree with our ideologies. Brazil will expand, and Brazil will be the South America. He ends his speech there and starts a rapid invasion of countries, with it coming out that Brazil has been preparing for this as soon as the alliance was formed. Brazil starts over here in Costa Rica, as they already had troops here from Panama, and immediately they're going to take the capital, and just within a few days gone. Over here in the sea, we actually do have a big naval battle going on between the Brazilians and the Americans, and it's actually very equal, because the Brazilians have done a lot of expansion with these islands, which is probably why they did it, and they have actually made it quite an equal fight. But the main thing for the Brazilians is to try and just like completely surround Puerto Rico, which they will do, and make a landing on the islands. They'll then continue from Cuba, pushing through and surrounding the Bahamian Islands, and also all of Hispaniola will fall, and their vessels will now reach the coast of Florida. Brazilian troops make a landing in Florida and immediately take Miami and just station their troops here for now. Down here in the main part of South America, we see a joint invasion between Paraguay and Brazil and Bolivia, and they're just going to start destroying all these countries, mainly these two down here. But the Brazilians themselves start an invasion of Peru, and honestly, this could have happened a long time ago, and the Brazilians were actually planning it, but then they joined that alliance. In cooperation with Bolivia, these two will be cutting off this area from Peru, meaning they are no longer connected to Chile. We're then going to see Brazilian troops moving in and taking these major cities, as well as moving towards this one, and they're going to set themselves around the coast by there, as well as up here. And at this point it becomes very obvious what they're doing, as they snake around the coast on both sides, and the capital will fall, and this country is now surrounded. Since they're surrounded, the Peruvians don't see a reason to fight, and they surrender. In a good move, however, the Argentinian, and they have a good general, the Argentinians, and they move into this area, and they start to invade into an area of Paraguay, and they even recapture the capital. It's pushed back really quickly though, and the Brazilians we know what's going to happen. It's their video, isn't it, guys? This major city falls, as well as this one, and this area is surrounded. It falls. We then see the Brazilians moving down this area, and they have a fight with the Argentinians outside the capital, and guess what? It leads to a Brazilian victory, and at this point the Argentinians are really considering surrendering. We see the Brazilian Navy sailing south, and they're going to capture the Falkland Islands. They beat the Argentinians to it, and coming back up north, they're going to continue their push into Florida, and it's not really going good here for the Americans. They're trying to push back, but these guys, they don't know who's supplying them. Someone must be, but they're too strong for them, and with basically all of Florida gone, the US and Canada will both be making the decision to call it quits, as well as the UK. They've lost the Falklands and they don't really see a means to continue fighting, and that leaves these guys, and to be honest, they're going to surrender. They don't really have a mean to continue fighting.
I forgot to say it in the video, so I'm just going to say it here. So let's take a look at the peace treaty for the war.
And this is the peace treaty. We see full annexation of Peru, as well as the puppet states which they used to own. They just annexed them and created new puppet states, being Argentina and Chile combined. They did lose some lands, so they just combined the rest of it as a puppet state. It's essentially North and South America, but North, South America, and South America, I don't know. But the Brazilians also took control of the Falkland Islands, as well as Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And another change is that since they did technically land in Florida, instead of annexing it, they just made it a puppet state. And also they did land in Hawaii during the war. I just forgot to actually show that part. I just forgot to do it, even though it was on my notes for this episode. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I've had a lot of fun making it, a lot more than I thought I'd have. But yeah, if you guys like this content, we would like to invite you to become a subscriber at the United Mapping Empire channel. We'd love to do more content like this, and yeah, we're currently trying to get to 100 subscribers. A subscribe would be really appreciated. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and please consider a like and subscribe. Goodbye.